Mina olen.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's very good to see so many of you here in Tallinn, and welcome to our press conference that follows the informal meeting of the AGRIFISH Council. And in case you are interested in interpretation, then we have headsets available next to the entrance. And we have with us here today Minister Tamm, Commissioner Hogan, and Commissioner Andriukaitis. And without further ado, I'll give the floor to the Minister.
Tänan, Anniki. Lugupeetud volinikud, ajakirjanikud, kuulajad. Mul on hea meel, et sain Tallinnas oma kolleege võõrustada. Meie kohtumine oli küll mitteametlik, kuid saime arutleda väga olulistel teemadel. Samuti oli ministritel võimalus tutvuda Eesti toidu, kultuuri ja loodusega. Tänase kohtumise peateema oli riskijuhtimine põllumajanduses, mis on üks keskseid teemasid ühise põllumajanduspoliitika tuleviku aruteludes. Kuna peame Euroopa Liidu kodanike tervist väga oluliseks ning võtame toiduohutuse teemat väga tõsiselt, siis täna lisandus päevakorda teema, mis on seotud vibroniiniga, saastunud munade käitlemine ja selle sattumine inimestele juurde. Sellest räägib hiljem lähemalt volinik Andriukaitis. Viimased aastad on põllumajandusturgudel olnud väga keerulised ja ebastabiilsed. ÜPP viimaste reformidega on turule orienteeritus kasvanud. See tähendab, et maailmaturul toimuv mõjutab järjest enam ka meie põllumeest. Kliimamuutuste tõttu on üha sagedasemaks muutunud äärmuslikud ilmatingimused, millel on suur mõju põllumajandustoodangule. Seega peame põllumajanduseks tururiskide kõrval arvestama ka tootmisriskidega. ÜPP tuleviku teemalises aruteludes peame arvestama turgude jätkuva muutlikkusega. Seetõttu on praegu õige aeg analüüsida kriisidest saadud õppetunde ning alustada arutelu, kuidas saab põllumajanduspoliitika aidata turu kriisideks paremini valmistuda. Praegune ÜPP sisaldab juba mitmeid riskijuhtimise elemente, aga tegelikkuses ei ole neid kuigi tõhusad. Riskijuhtimine vajab terviklikku käsitlust, mis tegeleb kriisideks reageerimise kõrval ka planeerimise ja ennetamisega. Ministrid leidsid, et ÜPP reformid on olnud suunatud sellele, et põllumees lähtuksid oma tootmisotsuseid tehes turusignaalidest. Selle tulemusel on ka vastus riskide maandamise eest senisest enam põllumehele nihkunud. Samas on nende reformide eelduseks olnud stabiilselt kasvav nõudlus ja tõusvas joones liikunud hinnad ning võimalike kriisidega ei ole piisavalt arvestatud. Seetõttu ei ole tänane ÜPP erinevateks kriisideks piisavalt valmis. Lisaks tõid ministrid välja, et andes põllumehele suurema vastutuse, ei tohiks me neid riskide maandamisel üksi jätta. ÜPP peab põllumehele hakkama pakkuma tööriistu, mis aitavad parandada valmisolekut kriisideks ja suurendada konkurentsivõimet avatud turutingimustes. Kriisireservi osas arvasid ministrid, et süsteem tuleb üle vaadata. Rakendamine tuleb muuta kiiremaks ja paindlikumaks. Otsetoetust on oluline roll põllumajandussektoris stabiilsete sissetulekute tagamisel. Seda näitas ka viimane kriis, kus just otsetoetused aitasid paljudel põllumeestel kõige keerulisemad ajad üle elada. Seega on otsetoetused ka üks riskijuhtimise meetmeid. Ministrite seas leidus erinevaid arvamusi, mil määral tuleb riskijuhtimise seisukohast jätkata otsetoetuste ühtsustamisega. Teise samba riskijuhtimismeetmete osas leidsid ministrid, et nende rakendamine tuleb lihtsustada ning riskijuhtimismeetmed peavad võimaldama arvesse võtta liikmesriikide eripärasid. Ja see ongi minu poolt tänase päeva kohta lühidalt kõik. Aitäh!
Thank you, Minister. Commissioner Hogan, please.
Thank you very much. And I want to, first of all, take this opportunity to thank Minister Tamm and his team for the kind hospitality to all of us here in Tallinn. This morning, as the Minister has outlined, we had a very useful exchange of views on the issue of risk management based on the Presidency paper. The President of the Council has summarised the discussion, so I don't need to repeat what he said. As I stated in my own intervention at the meeting, it is clear that resilience and risk management will be important elements of the future of the CAP. But today's discussion clearly demonstrates that there are no easy solutions to tackle this issue. That said, I listened carefully to the contributions from all ministers, and I think that there is some ideas that we will further explore in what was stated. I wasn't surprised to hear and see the support for direct payments and the extent to which ministers see direct payments as an essential support for farmers in terms of income stability, particularly at times of crisis. But I was also very interested in the comments on the crisis reserve. And perhaps not surprisingly, many ministers made reference to the fact that the crisis reserve has never been mobilised since it was introduced in 2014. And this is at a time when we had some crisis in various commodities. So, with Member States, I also acknowledge Member States have shown reluctance to use it, and indeed one has to wonder in what circumstances Member States would be prepared to use the crisis reserve. And due to the fact that the argument is that Member States do not want to be reducing direct payments from the very same people who are going through the crisis. So we have to look at that in the context of the future CAP post-2020. I took note of the number of ministers who suggested that its operation of the crisis reserve needs to be something that we will look at, and we will do that. So, generally speaking, the tools that we have available at the moment for risk management under the financial envelopes and financial supports and rural development, also when you take account of the proposals that are before the omnibus regulations, before the Council and the Parliament at the moment in the context of trilogues, like income stabilisation tools. These are the measures that Member States are anxious to explore further to see can we give more possibilities to farmers to be able to deal with price volatility and risk management in all its forms in the years ahead. So again, I want to thank you, Mr. President, for the organisation of the meeting and for tabling this discussion. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Commissioner Andriukaitis.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to thank Minister Tamm for kind hospitality. As Minister Tamm said earlier, today also constituted an occasion to present the state of play as regards to fipronil case. I want to thank the Presidency for including it on the agenda of this informal meeting. This impact of the illegal use of this product on laying hens has reached an European Union-wide dimension with today's hundreds of farms blocked for production, 26 member states and 19 third countries involved. While the risk to human health is low, The consequences of this criminal activity have impacted greatly the consumer confidence. This is why we need first to obtain a complete picture of what happened. Secondly, collectively provide clear answers to the citizens. And third, to make sure that those who pursue in that kind of illegitimate businesses are found and brought to justice. From the moment this criminal fraud case was notified to my services, the Commission has requested specific measures be taken at national level to safeguard a high level of public health protection. I personally was in contact with German, Dutch, Belgian, and Austrian ministers to discuss the state of play and actions to follow. We also launched European Union-wide monitoring exercise investigating the possible use of illegal substances in egg products from producing farms. My services have also did their utmost to reassure our trade partners as regards the safety and traceability of European Union food products. Today, I heard detailed explanation from the ministers. It is confirmed that all suspected farms have been blocked and contaminated eggs and egg products are being destroyed. But some work remains to be done. Some fact-finding missions for the 4 most affected member states are scheduled in the later of September, earlier of October. The European Union has always drawn lessons from so-called food crisis. And this is why I'm already looking forward to a high-level ministerial meeting in Brussels on 26th of September, where we'll discuss how to strengthen the way the European Union networks are dealing with food safety and fraud and food fraud function. I have invited the ministers to attend. This will be an opportunity to draw some conclusions that we will be then able to put forward to our next formal Council agenda. Let me conclude by reassuring the European Union citizens that we will remain extremely vigilant and will not tolerate that actions of few people put in question the integrity, the reputation, and the stability of our entire food chain, one of the economic pillars of the European Union. I will remain personally involved, and as the fipronil situation evolves, almost on a daily basis, my services are working closely with those of Commissioners Malmström and Commissioner Hogan to ensure that the Commission's response remains coordinated, comprehensive, and forward-looking. Finally, I called once again Member States to remain open, cooperative, and communicate with each other. This is essential to maintain a high level of public health protection across Europe. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We will now have time for questions. Please introduce yourself and the media you represent. And as we have 3 speakers, please also indicate from whom you would like response. Yes, please.
Yes, I'm Tarmo Tamm from Finland, and I'm a freelancer. I write mainly for agriculture interests. And even though the egg issue is probably the topic that everyone would like to. Even though the egg issue is probably the issue everyone is willing to hear, I'd like to bring in attention the decisions from past, namely the trade embargo with Russia. And I'd like to address the question primarily for Minister Tamm. And I'd like to have an idea what were the national losses for Estonian economy because of the trade embargo. How many farms went to bankrupt because of this? I know that the situation in Finland has been very stressful for a lot of farmers. Thank you.
Aitäh selle küsimuse eest. Vene embargo mõjutas väga palju Eesti põllumehi ja me kaotasime kusagil 10% näiteks piimakarjast. Aga mul on hea meel tõdeda, et tänased päevaks on see sektor taastunud, kuigi loomade arv ei ole veel taastunud, ega piimakarja taastamine ei ole niivõrd lihtne, aga piima kogutoodang on kõrgemal tasemel kui sellel perioodil, kui embargo algas. Ja mis ma ütlen, et Vene turg oli mitte ainult Eestile, aga väga palju teistele Euroopa Liidu riikidele suureks turuks, et ma tean, et sinna eksporti väga palju ka puuvilju ja teisi kultuuri. Et et meil on Euroopa Liidus ühtne poliitika ja kui senine mitte ühtne Euroopa Liidu poliitika tähendab seda, et seni kui Venemaa on Krimmis, et me ei saa ka siis neid meetmeid leevendada ja see ongi tänase päeva seis, aga ma ütlen, et me oleme suutnud selle väga lühikese ajaga leida Euroopa Liidus uusi turge ja tänu ka volinik Hoganile on sõlmitud vabakaubandusleping Jaapaniga. Ma tean, et valmistatakse lepingut ette Mercosuri riikidega. Me oleme leidnud uusi turge ja tänasel päeval on situatsioon selline, et meil pigem Euroopa Liidus piima toodangust tuleb puudu, kui neid üle jääb. Nii et see me oleme suutnud stabiliseerida, et jah, see turg oli meie jaoks oluline, aga tänase päeval me ei saa enam sellega arvestada. Ja kas me tulevikus saame arvestada, sest ma tean, et Venemaa teeb ise ka väga suuri jõupingutusi, et oma tootmist tõsta, aga tuleb vaadata teistesse riikidesse, nii et aitäh.
Rose.
Thank you, Annika. Minister Tamm, please, I had a question. One of your main arguments presented today was this idea of further harmonising direct support to stabilise farm income and also to act as a safety net during times of crisis. Do you think this next policy reform that will be on the table early next year is the ideal window of opportunity to make that happen? Commissioner Hogan, speaking of the future CAP on the cards over the next 6 months, would it be fair to say that this next policy reform will be an evolution rather than a revolution, let's say, of the current legislative framework? And on an aside, are you averse to the idea of allowing state aid for those countries, perhaps one close to your heart, that is suffering as a consequence of currency fluctuation in our neighbouring UK? And lastly, if I may take this opportunity to ask Commissioner Andriukaitis, what was your main message to ministers from both Belgium and the Netherlands during your bilateral this morning about their handling of this fipronil scandal? And what lessons have we learned in terms of the alert system that's currently in place in the EU? Thank you.
Aitäh teile küsimuse eest. ÜPP tulevik on Eesti eesistumise üks prioriteetidest. Ja ega me asjata tänasel päeval ei rääkinud ühest osast sellest ÜPP tulevikust ehk riskijuhtimisest. Ja komisjon on teinud väga palju ettepanekut, on toimunud väga palju arutelusid sellel ÜPP tuleviku teemadel ja ma loodan, et komisjon tuleb varsti välja teatisega, kus ta näeb, et milliseid muudatusi me võiks selles uues ühtses põllumajanduspoliitikas sisse viia, sest ega üldine arusaam on Euroopa Liidus ja oma kolleegide hulgas, et on vaja midagi muuta. Mida konkreetselt, seda me ei ole veel tänasel kokku leppinud. Kes tahab ühtsustada neid toetusmäärasid, kes arvavad, et riskijuhtist peaks ringi vaatama ja nii edasi, et seda konsensust on muidugi raske leida, aga me arvan, et me oleme esimese sammu selle teel astunud. Üks asi, milles ollakse küll ühisel meelel, et ühtne põllumajanduspoliitika peaks muutuma lihtsamaks, et ta peaks olema talumehele arusaadav, ei peaks olema nii palju bürokraatia ja ei peaks ka nagu avalikust sektorist nii palju raha nõudma, et seda kõike kontrollida. Ja ma loodan vähemalt, et Eesti eesistumise ajal me suudame omnibussi määruse vastu võtta ja see on üks samm, et järgmise aasta 1. jaanuarist võiks Euroopa Liidu põllumees vaadata, et põllumajanduspoliitika ongi lihtsamaks muutunud. Et me oleme sellel teel ja ei ole vist ilmselt kolleege, kes ei leiaks, et oleks seal üht-teist nagu ringi vaata ja korrigeerida. Aitäh.
Just in relation to the first question, could I say to the speaker that the figures around the Russian embargo might be interesting to you. 5.3 billion euro of exports were lost by the European Union because of the Russian embargo. And the European Union responded to the sanctions to help farmers, who were the only ones that were exposed because of this political action and political decision. 1.5 billion euro additional money was mobilized by Europe to help our farmers. It will never be enough, but at least it was some effort in addition to the direct payments to try and alleviate the distress and the damage and mitigate the damage arising from that decision by President Putin. In relation to CAP, it will be an evolution rather than a revolution, I would say. It's modernising and simplifying a policy that was just recently agreed in 2013. It's a more market-orientated policy, but in the context of our discussion today, risk management tools are becoming more important in order to allow farmers and member states to be able to respond at times for various changes in the marketplace that affect particular sectors. The harmonisation of support is an issue, and I'm no sure that Minister Tamm from Estonia, and indeed Baltic countries generally and Eastern European countries, will be mobilising their political arguments about why there should be convergence of payments across the European Union, and this inevitably will form part of the discussions for the CAP post-2020. In relation to state aid for Brexit-related currency movements, it's open to any member state to make an application from time to time on state aids or supports that they feel they need to help their sector. I know that in the country you refer to, Ireland, that there has been a €650 million loss in export value because of currency movements, and this seems to be getting worse because of the fact that we are at 93 to the euro now, rather than 75 to the euro just over a year and a half ago. So I'm sure other countries are the same, but I haven't heard from other countries yet except Ireland. So if other countries are feeling the same about the matter, perhaps they will say something about it in the coming weeks. But it is a big problem for our agri-business, and of course it will be continuing a big problem in terms of the competitiveness of those businesses, who inevitably will have to look at their cost base, including the cost of money in relation to their exports. So we are monitoring the situation, and I have received notice from the Irish government that they will be sending me some suggestions and proposals for my consideration in the coming weeks.
And my answer to your question is very simple. My message was the same from the beginning, because we have a lot of contacts with Belgium and Netherlands from the beginning of crisis. And of course, I would like to thank Belgium and Netherlands, because they did a lot of work and introduced all our recommendations, and were very effective stopping, crisis and monitoring situation and providing strong measures and banning farms and of course destroying contaminated products. It's okay, but you know very well that message is the same: coordination, cooperation, collaboration, enforcement of European Union rules, and of course more harmonized approach on some very technical details and issues. I am very happy that Belgium, Netherlands, Germany and France decided to dedicate liaison officers, and they are today in very good shape in cooperating, and we agreed today that Netherlands and Belgium will present to us a very comprehensive picture of the situation in the beginning or in the middle of September, helping us to present outcomes to our high-level ministerial meeting. And I fully agree with those who stress importance or possibility to strengthen cooperation between two different systems: food fraud system and rapid alert system, and of course to solve a lot of technical problems, to guaranteeing more harmonized system cooperation.
Et võib-olla ma täpsustuseks ütleks veel juurde, et Euroopa Liidus ei ole ainult ühtne põllumajanduspoliitika, Euroopa Liidus on ka ühtne välispoliitika. Ja minul Eesti ministrina ilmselt oleks väga hea sõita siin naabrite juurde ja millest kokku leppida, see lihtsalt ei ole võimalik. Ja selle tagajärjel kaotab põllumajandussektor, aga me oleme solidaarsed nii ühtepidi kui ka teistpidi, nii et me ei saa seda kuidagi erinevalt käsitleda ja sellele erinevalt läheneda, et ühtne põllumajanduspoliitika Euroopa Liidus on ka ühtne välispoliitika.
I apologize for being too hasty, but let's go over there now.
Sebastian Schobel, German Public Radio. Question to Commissioner Andriukaitis about the fipronil scandal. What is your response to some ministers, notably the German agriculture minister, saying that the European rapid alert system failed during the fipronil scandal, that it did not work? I don't think he meant technically, but obviously the information flow wasn't good enough. And then, are you open, or is the Commission open to sanctions against countries who withhold information? I don't know for how long, weeks, months, before they actually put any information into the system that is there for them to then share this information. Because you mentioned that you want to improve information sharing, but it is my understanding that the system already is up and running, so whoever has information can share it right away. So what is the actual problem of this scandal? Thank you.
Okay, if I may, from the beginning. A rapid alert system of food and feed works very well. It's crystal clear. We guarantee tracking and tracing of all eggs. We banned all farms. We destroyed all eggs and egg products. It was done in a very effective way. Can you imagine that every day we have received information, every day reaction was. But please don't mix situation. A different system is administrative assistance and cooperation system, speaking about food and fraud. And communication between those two systems, it needs improvement. It's crystal clear. And I agree with Mr. Schmidt absolutely that we need to see how to improve cooperation and communication between systems. And of course also discuss how to strengthen our capacities in information flow. And of course, a simple question, who must know what and how to react immediately and at which time. It's of course a very, very important question. Speaking about sanctions against countries, if I may, I would like to draw attention. Of course, we will separate issues. One thing is illegal crime and sanctions against those who act in this manner. And doesn't matter in which country. But it's not, I have no facts that they will see some countries which were not effective in this case. Of course, it's very technical and very difficult picture, but we need to understand, we need to have effective system banning and sanctioning those who are acting in unfair way and who are doing this illegal crime. Sanctions is about that, but not about, in this case, not about member states.
There was a question here.
Yes, I have a question about the risk management measures. Could you? Adrian Krebs, Bauernzeitung, Switzerland. I have a question about the risk management measures that you were discussing. Can you maybe either Mr. Tamm or Mr. Hogan give some details about what measures you were discussing, please?
Well, could I say that there is a suite of risk management measures already in the CAP that can be utilised by farmers in Pillar 1 or Pillar 2 under our system. So we were evaluating whether those measures are sufficient, and most delegations would accept that they're not. As we become more market orientated in our policy, there is volatility in the marketplace for price, but also there are, whether it is from climate change or from natural disasters, there is other risks that farmers and the agribusiness sector have to cope with as well. So we are looking at models of what is happening around the world, the United States and elsewhere, to see is insurance products, mutual funds, hedging in the marketplace, futures, forward buying, all of these issues in addition to the emergency measures and the CMO, the Common Market Organisation measures that we have at the moment, whether they're sufficient enough or not. We have a mid-term review going on at the moment as well between the Council of Ministers and the Parliament to see what measures in the short term can help, like improving the uptake of our income stabilisation tool in the event that commodity prices in a particular sector go below 30%. That is not widely taken up by member states at the moment, so there is obviously a reason for that. So we're evaluating to see can that be improved as a measure in the short term to help to trigger this mechanism by farmers in the event that there's a problem in a particular sector. So these are just some examples. Of course, they all cost money, and it's a question of priorities in relation to a budget that is under pressure because of various reasons, but including the fact that we're going to have a reduction in our budget because of Brexit.
Second row. Hi. Oh, sorry, it was for the lady in the second row.
Microphone.
But no microphone.
Lady. Spain has to wait a little longer.
I will come back to you, I promise.
Just going back to the risk management, will you be thinking of money for research in technology and support for farmers to take practical steps to adapt their land management and cropping in the light of the extreme weather situations caused by climate change so that they can prepare for things, not just react?
I can assure you that this is very much on my mind, and we have had a number of conferences this year, and we will have another one in Lisbon next month, to look at how we can improve the research and innovation part of agriculture, the technological developments. I'm very supportive of the collaboration that we've had with Commissioner Vytenis on research, science and innovation in this regard. And we have a call going out in October, this October, on the Horizon 2020, on Societal 2 expectations, a Societal 2 programme, which includes measures that we are going to work together on to help companies and farmers come together in a collaborative way in respect of precision agriculture and the digitisation of agriculture and the use of big data and the Internet of Things. So we are trying, in the modernisation and simplification of our policy, to bring forward measures that, in the technological area, that would clearly show that we are moving with the technological developments.
With apologies to Spain first.
Hi, I'm Monica Fara from the news agency EFE. I have a question for Mr. Andriukaitis. 3 months ago, we were talking about the audit to Brazil because of their meat scandal. This summer, we had our own fipronil scandal. I'm not comparing both, but I'm just wondering if, do you think this could have an impact on the Mercosur negotiations? And also, what are the measures that are going to be launched by the European Commission? Like if you're thinking, for example, on missions to reinforce controls in the countries affected or something like that, because that's not clear to me. And a question for Mr. Hogan. I was talking to the Spanish minister before, and she was defending that our risk management system is very advanced. I would like to know if, how do you think this system can be helpful for future ideas in the European Union as a whole? Thank you very much.
Okay, if I may. First of all, I would like to start with your question about our possibility to send missions to affected countries. Yes. We are on the way to prepare our team to send to 4 countries to fact-finding missions at the end of September, at the beginning of October, maybe in this time. And of course, we just see possibility to receive more and more information. As I mentioned, 26 countries are affected. In some countries, if you see, it's not farms who are related to those which were involved in scandal from the beginning, and it's some suspicious that some countries must draw attention on situation in their poultry sector, and we will see how to organize fact-finding missions. Speaking about possibilities to continue our discussions with Mercosur countries, and what will be in influence? I do not see no influence because we act immediately in a very transparent manner. We informed all our trading partners, and we provide all information to all countries, and no country shows possibility to have doubts about European Union food safety system and about our traceability, about our transparency, about our effectiveness. And I do not see real impact on Mercosur, EU-Mercosur trade agreement.
I would certainly acknowledge that Spain are very advanced in relation to risk management measures, and they seem to utilise the existing suite of measures much more effectively than many member states. So this is why I'm sure Minister Techerina is very much of a view that there are not many more instruments that we can use in order to do better for farmers and to deal with disasters like whether they're drought or whether they're flooding or earthquakes or whatever we had in Italy. So can we do more? We can do more in terms of making them the existing measures better, making them more attractive and incentivise them more, particularly the income stabilisation tool and the mutual funds and insurance products in Pillar 2. And this is what we're looking at. Member states can do more as well. They can actually implement a measure that's quite attractive in a lot of member states, income averaging over a 3 or 4 or 5 year period. This allows for losses to be in 1 year to be offset against profits another year over a period of time. So there are various measures, but I was listening carefully to the contributions from our member states, and there wasn't too many new ideas. But a lot of member states, of course, emphasised the existing measures and how they could be better. And I think we can do more there.
All the questions from people who haven't had a chance yet, so let's go there.
Yes, thank you. I am Mikke Godfredsen, and I am writing for a Finnish farm magazine. I would like to ask Commissioner Hogan about the financing. You mentioned the budget by yourself, that it's under pressure. And there might be some difficulties because the member states don't seem to be ready for decreasing subsidies, and they don't seem to be ready for paying more by themselves either. So I would like to ask, in which direction will the discussion go here in the future, near future?
Well, you have outlined the dilemma yourself. Net payers like Finland do not want to pay more into the EU budget, whilst recipients of the EU budget want to see more money being paid by member states. So this is a dilemma. We are about €12 billion net out of pocket if Brexit goes ahead, which we are operating on the basis it will, for our budget 2020-2027. So there is new initiatives that are being considered as well at European Council level, like security, defence and migration. So are we going to have new money for new initiatives? This is the question you have to ask the European Council Prime Ministers. If they want new initiatives, well then in my view, they should find new money. I will be certainly under pressure enough on the finances because of Brexit in relation to my agricultural budget. But nevertheless, we have to work together to find a fair basis of where we can continue to support our family farmers, or small and medium-sized farmers in particular, to be able to sustain the food security that we sometimes take for granted in the European Union, and where we can now make a contribution towards feeding the population of the world, where we expect farmers to do a lot more on public goods and the environment and climate. And there's a social dimension to agriculture. And of course, there will be the debate around convergence that I mentioned earlier. So if we don't have sufficient resources to do all of these things, we just have to cut our cloth to suit our measure.
There was a question, was there? The microphone is coming.
Back to risk management, did you discuss on market regulation, and what are the position of the ministers and of the Commission, please?
Well, I think all ministers and the Commissioner as one in looking at market measures, but we don't have the luxury in the future, though, for emergency measures. Financial support of the value of €1.5 billion is a huge amount of money that we invested in the agricultural sector because of the Russian embargo. And we are told now that money of that order is not going to be available in the future for all of these issues, that we have to look at other tools that are there and try and make them better and plan better for these type of market disturbances and price volatility. And this is what we're working at. So, market measures like public intervention, like private storage aid, which we've used successfully in order to bring an appalling situation in 2015, early 2016 to the situation today where we have, prices of milk, as the Minister Tamm has said, extraordinary increase in them in the last year, where we have all of our commodities in reasonably good state of health. I don't want to touch wood or tempt fate, as it were, that something would come out of the blue that would actually disturb that. We have a reasonably good situation at the moment in agriculture, and we are taking advantage of free trade opportunities that are emerging around the world as well. As you saw in Japan, we're working in Mercosur and Mexico, and as long as Mr. Trump continues his protectionist attitude towards trade, we will continue to fill the vacuum in the European Union with high-quality food and drink products.
Let's go there.
Marine Lauchet from Newswire AFP. I have a question for Commissioner Andriukaitis and Minister Tamm. I wanted to know if you talked about processed food in relation with the egg crisis. Some countries like France, for instance, made a list of processed foods that contain contaminated eggs. It seems to be more difficult in countries like Germany. Is there a will for a harmonized response concerning processed food, or did you talk about it at all?
Frankly speaking, we do not talk about those issues today in a very concrete manner, because it is, of course, a very complex one question. And as you know, it's up to countries to decide how they will provide information about products. But generally, if countries know that those eggs were used in processed food, they must first of all, withdraw those products from the market, absolutely, because it's up to our rules. All products must be withdrawn, doesn't matter eggs or products which contain eggs or ingredients. It must be withdrawn from the market. And it is up to member states to inform consumers in which way and how to do it. And of course, also speaking about possibilities to harmonize enforcement of European rules, I count on countries' proposals on 26th of September, and we will see how to debate those issues in more details.
Toiduohutus on väga tähtis kõikide inimeste jaoks ja Euroopa Liidu inimeste jaoks samamoodi. Euroopa Liidus on ühtsed toidustandardid. Kõik inimesed peaks teadma ja tunnetama, et kui nad ostavad Euroopa Liidust toodet toitu, et nad saavad kvaliteetset ja kvaliteediga toitu. Ja liikmesriigid vastastikku tunnustavad teisi riiki ja neid toiduameteid. Ja ma arvan, et see süsteem on selles mõttes nagu õige. Aga kui see skandaal läheb suuremaks ja mõjutab ka mingil määral siis Euroopa Liidu eksporti ja võimalusi eksporti ja munatoote näiteks, et see ei ole ainult tervise küsimus, see on tegelikult on ka ekspordi küsimus.
Gentleman in the middle. It took me a while, but here we go.
Hello, it's Mike Donovan from UK, and I edit a magazine called Practical Farm Ideas. I'd be very interested if the DG Agri and their UK counterparts have formulated any kind of agreement, statement of intent, as it were, sort of overarching principles of perhaps decency and so on. And I'm taking no responsibility for what's been going on in the UK. But I think that a divorce is always slightly better if you have a few sort of recognized or agreed terms of before the contest starts. Thank you.
Well, I think you know the agenda already. I don't have to educate you on decency either. But they're clearly set out what the negotiating parameters are in the first phase of the financial settlement, citizens' rights, and the Irish border question, and then we go on to the future relationship. So I don't know what your question is or what I can add to that, but that's the agenda. And I presume that the negotiators are doing their best to meet each other's. We are in DG Agri in a supporting role in giving all of the necessary backup information as required for any of the agenda items as they emerge.
We don't have time for a full second round, but I have two questions that have already been waiting for a while, so let's go there first.
Yes, going back to the fipronil scandal again, Commissioner Andriukaitis, because I'm failing to see whether anything went wrong from your point of view, because you said there's a system set up to fight food fraud or fraud in the food sector, and then there's the rapid alert system, and both systems need to communicate better. So should the Belgium or should the Belgian or the Dutch governments, should they have informed other member states using the food fraud system? So it wasn't a problem of the rapid alert system. Where was the problem from your point of view? And because you said you want to improve the system, it's my understanding that I'm failing to see what you want to improve, because the rules are there, they're pretty clear. So from your point of view, should any of the member states involved, Belgium, Netherlands, Germany probably not, should they have informed other member states earlier than they did, which was the end of July? Thank you.
If I may, I would like to say that rules are, but not all the rules are clear. A lot of technical questions and a lot of technical problems which are very serious from the beginning. And of course, we need to receive from Netherlands explanation on full picture of situation, from Belgium, from Germany, from all affected countries. And then we will assess how to really move forward with improvement, present our ideas to Agri Council in October. Now we'll see more detailed picture because, as I mentioned, we discussed a lot of issues related to administrative assistance and support in food and fraud system. And questions were from the beginning, some countries started to use so-called normal case procedure, not using procedure of involving Commission. But because of interpretation of rules is vary. Interpretation is vary, and it is not the fault, it's a real problem which is today on the ground, and we need to address those issues in one hand. In another hand, speaking about rapid alert system and such system of administrative assistance and cooperation system, you also see that those two systems are not in good shape in cooperating. And of course, we look at council, we look at countries' proposals, and our DG Center also is involved into details, and then we will see outcomes from senior veterinary office meeting in 15th of September, and then to see how to present more clear picture and proposing new steps, strengthening the situation. And I agree with Mr. Schmidt. I am awaiting of German proposals and Belgium, Netherlands proposals, how to move forward, how to present our real improvements of those systems.
Should any of the countries have informed the other member states earlier? Because that is one of the central questions.
Speaking about information, you must understand that all procedures and time was enshrined. They have in some cases some limits, but they are in those limits, and we need to understand how to see possibilities to improve mechanisms, not to blaming today some countries. It's not about blaming and shaming.
And we have come full circle. Last question to Finland, Tapani.
Thank you, ma'am. So Tapani Koivunen from Finland again. And now I'd like to look forward of the European Union. I when Finland joined European. I was for Finland to join.
That's long ago.
And it's a few years back. And I've been advocate for free markets and understanding of supply and demand. Yet, the older I get, the more I see that the free markets don't function perfectly, actually very unperfect. And so the instability of the markets, that's a challenge for everyone. We'd like to know what we get our product for tomorrow. So we have futures market, commodities futures markets. In Europe, we have MATIF. I worked with Chicago Board of Trade. Actually, I've taken a lot of academics in that area. And I can see it works for big processing companies. It works fine for big companies like Cargill, Tyson, you name them. And it works fine for speculators who want to just speculate there. However, farmer, what I'm afraid, we put the farmer in Europe also as a dependent for systems like MATIF. Anything that we put in between farmer and consumer will reduce the revenue for farmer. And we really, at least in Finland, we have a really big concern of our farming sector survive. Therefore, I believe you have wise people in your organization to evaluate, but rather than building more hands in between that speculate between farm and consumer, will only reduce the income for farms. So direct contacts from farms to processors, let's make the channels as short as possible. I don't know if I have a question, but I'm sure you can comment on it. Thank you.
But you have contradicted yourself a little bit. Because
Yeah,
the first thing you said was that we should have free markets.
And then
the last thing you said is that we should intervene in order to make sure that farmers are protected against these bad processors.
Exactly. And
So which do you want?
Exactly, and I said the older I get, I don't believe that the free market works anymore.
Well, I'm glad that you were in the Chicago Board of Trade, because you wouldn't get any opportunity to have any intervention whatsoever there, because it's absolutely a free market and they're in a different business than trying to do the economic, social and environmental aspects of farming. And I was there. I visited the Chicago Board of Trade recently, so I'm fully up to speed in terms of the work that they're doing, led by a good Irish American from the west of Ireland, Mr. Durkin. So the Common Agricultural Policy is economic, environmental and social. And in the European Union, with the family farm model, which is very different to the United States, we expect farmers to do an awful lot of public goods, apart from the taken for granted role that they always had for the last 60 years in the CAP of feeding the people of Europe. After the Second World War, people in these countries, and indeed in countries that are now well advanced in agriculture, were starving. And the Common Agricultural Policy was set up for the purpose of trying to assist in the feeding of the people of Europe in the first instance. And this has been a remarkable success, but now of course it's taken for granted. But we have high quality food and drink products now that our farmers want to not just do what they are doing well in a competitive way on food security issues, they now want to, I suppose, continue to export and to help feed the populations of the world, which is a growing population and a big challenge. And where better place than Europe to get the best of food quality. Secondly, they're expected to do all of the public goods in the environment and climate as well. And there's a social dimension. If we don't have our farmers in these regions, we will have, like the Midwest of the United States, land abandonment, where we have nobody to look after our landscapes and our environment. And is that what we want? So the European ministers and the European Union have made a decision. We don't want that system. We want a system where we can keep as many people on the land as possible in a family farm model to do all of this work in terms of economic, environment and social. And to have vibrant rural communities. And I would refer you to a document that we had recently where we had all our stakeholders together in Ireland last year, the Cork 2 Declaration, which is entitled A Better Life in Rural Areas. This gives a menu of enormous opportunity for the European Union to implement rural development measures, that not just for employment growth and opportunity, but also protection of our landscapes and keeping our villages and keeping our smaller settlement patterns actually intact and actually in existence. So the final thing I will say is that we do recognise very much what you said at the end about the position of the farmer in the food chain. Farmer is at the end of the pipe. He's a price taker. Processors and retailers can pass it to their consumers. Farmer cannot. So we are looking at a little bit of regulation. I know it's contrary to the free market, but nevertheless it's an intervention that's required in a market-orientated policy to ensure that the farmer is not actually squeezed in the terms of price as they are at the moment between retailer and processor, and that they are able to get a reasonable return from their high-risk business that they're in and to be able to survive. And we will be bringing forward proposals on that in 2018.
I feel that this was a very fitting end, Minister.
Yes, on a roll.
Not an end, but very fitting.
Sellest aitab kõige paremini jagu saada, kui sa osaled tarneahelas. Ja tarneahela on ka üks keskne teema, mida arutatakse, et see põllumees räägiks kaasa kogu selles ketis, et kuni see toode jõuab tarbijani. Ja see aitab maandada ka neid riske ja ma tean, et komisjon selle teemaga väga aktiivselt tegeleb ja minu teada uuel aastal on komisjon selle algatusega välja tulemas oma teatisega. Nii et see on kõige parem riskide maandaja, kui see tootja saab kaasa rääkida tarneahelas, on selle tühistut koostöövormid, et siis ei teki neid vastikuse nii-öelda hinnakõikumisi.
I'm just making sure that Commissioner Andriukaitis doesn't want to add anything before I try to end this press conference once more.
No, thank you. It's enough. Please use eggs because, from my point of view, they are safe. They have no public health risk at the moment.
I feel that this has been a very comprehensive press conference. I thank you, the speakers. Thank you all for coming and have a lovely afternoon.
See oli 3 eurot.